the U.S. auto manufacturing industry. I'm old enough to remember in the 90s, right, when I was like in college, before college, right, like studying about this whole buzz about anti-Japanese, influx of Japanese cars and, ruining manufacturing here. But you got to look at the bigger picture. Why? What happened? Why, like in the 70s, for example, when Japanese cars were introduced here, something caused the lack of competitiveness in the U.S. manufacturing industry. It was cost and the quality of the product, right? You can also use the example of Sony and versus RCA back in the day. It was like an MBA case study. RCA is American, right? You don't see that brand anymore. They used to make TVs and all that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden they got killed by the Japanese, right? Sony TVs and stuff like that. Why? Why did we lose our manufacturing base? My personal opinion, really, okay, this is based on everything that I've read. This is my opinion from what I understand, is we became less competitive in a certain product, right? Now, just walk into Walmart today. Walk into Costco today. Where's everything made? Where did you buy? In China. Why? Those things that used to be made here are now made in China. Why? For a very simple reason. Why?
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, right? And for like the automobile example is why there was an influx of Japanese automobiles in what used to be dominated by the Americans, is the automobile industry. Why? Right? Cheaper and
better quality.
Better quality, right? So at the end of the day, consumers choose what's the best value, right? So that's the driver of manufacturing wherever it may be, whether it be here domestically, Mexico, in China, whatever it is. There's a lot of implications that affect manufacturing. There's tariffs, government, subsidy. You name it, all sorts of different things, right? But, primarily, we lose our manufacturing base really because we are no longer competitive either in price, cost, or quality of the product, right? An opposing example would be aircraft, defense products, military. We're still the best, right? Boeing's still an American company. The only one competitor we have is the Europeans, which is Airbus, right? You're not going to go and, the Russians manufacture their own airplanes, so does the Chinese. They're kind of knockoffs, but are you going to get on a Chinese jet? Is a major airline going to buy a Chinese jet? Fuck no, right? Because they don't have that track record, that reputation. Well, again, Boeing now, you don't know, look at what's going on, but anyways, it's a different conversation. But whether manufacturing should come back or not, there's no real straight, simple answer for that. Is it more, manufacturing, leaving the country usually is something that the consumers drove. The consumers drive it. What kind of car do you drive?
German.
What kind of car? Every one of your friends, anybody driving an American car?
No.
Why?
Maybe I'm from Missouri. Everyone drives American in Missouri.
But why? What's the issue here? It's the cost and the value for your money, right? So consumers are saying we want better products for lower cost all the time. Consumers always want the biggest value, the best value for the best bang for their buck. And what happens in the manufacturing of those products? There's a competition between manufacturing it locally and foreign. What's the consumer want? What's the consumer going to buy, right? So my view is, if it's cheaper to make it somewhere else and it's lower cost and equal or better value for the consumers, that's where the product should be manufactured. That's competitive advantages. That's like a key concept in business, right? Things should be produced where they're cheapest to produce with the highest quality, right? And
can we make that happen here again?
No, I don't think so. If you look at like the changes in economies over here, we've pretty much, this is old business shit. We've pretty much gone from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy, right? Look at the top manufacturing companies like in the last decade. The top companies in the U.S., what are they? The top companies.
It's all tech.
What does tech produce? You can't hold something. Technically, yeah, your iPhone and all that, Apple's kind of like a products company, but Microsoft. manufacturing-based, production-based economy. So if you look at look at Detroit's been suffering forever. This is what happened right now, right? The unions wanted more money. You're going to make the car more expensive. That's what happens, right? Is it going to be better quality? I don't think so, but it's just going to be more expensive because the cost of manufacturing it, human resources are going up, right? So a lot of times what happens in the past is companies like, hey, I'm building this thing over here and my cost is going up for labor, for whatever in the U.S. What do they do? They move their factories over the border to Mexico because it's cheaper. Now, if you ran your own company, right, and you would do the same, right? Now, if you're the consumer, you like it too.
Cheaper car,
same quality or better, right? So, to me, there's no answer to it. Yeah, the people, the folks that build the car, or in that manufacturing base, whether it be cars or whatever the other products, if it gets moved offshore, they're hosed.
everyone's doing a good job.
Not every, well, yeah, but it's how markets work, right? If you study economics, a product should be produced where it has the best competitive advantage of being produced, the advantages of lower cost, higher quality, whatnot. It's what the consumers want, So how do you bring back manufacturing over here? Now, if you remember, like real world examples I've experienced with my clients, I had a client that was importing products from Vietnam right before COVID. The whole business this is a positive story of manufacturing. The whole business was importing products from Vietnam, right? And COVID hits. And what happened during COVID? Right? So, but what's the biggest problem? The freight cost went from like $5,000 per container to $25,000. All of a sudden, the guy's business like, shit, man. My business is completely no longer sustainable. When my shipping costs went up 500%. So what did he do? He went bought, the company transferred all their manufacturing over here. They bought machines to make their product here. Because in that economic situation, it was cheaper to produce the same product here than it was to import it from Vietnam because the cost of bringing it over is that expensive, right? So there are all these forces that determine whether manufacturing should be brought or should come back here or not. My point really is if the government starts using tariffs, I'm in the, I'm of my background in education is tariffs are bad in economics. It's just bad because it's not a market-based control. You're putting an artificial control into something, so to try and bring manufacturing back. But in the situation I just told you, it's pure market forces. Cost of shipping went up. Okay, then I bring the manufacturing back. I still can deliver to my customers and make a profit here, right? So the question of whether should manufacturing come back depends.
Got it. Is U.S. manufacturing ever going to come back?
Tell me where I'm wrong. If we're moving manufacturing jobs to the United States, building factories here, making it all big, great again here, and Elon is currently making a legion of robots. Those legion of robots are created to replace humans. Each of those robots is going to cost less than the price of a car. That would be less than most humans would make working in a factory job each year. So that robot is going to be far less than a human employee. Therefore, when those factory jobs come back to the United States and they hire robots to do the job of humans, who's profiting from that? Who's benefiting from that? Because it's not you and it's not me. It's Elon Musk. It is the owners of those large businesses. And it could be us if we own stock. Because the profit from those businesses is the only place. They're not paying taxes. We're voting currently on tax cuts for them. So their taxes are not going to benefit us. Their taxes are not going to help the American citizens. The jobs are not going to help the American citizens. It's not going to lower the cost for us. Costs are never going to go down. So tell me where it's benefiting me or benefiting you. It's not, because that's never what it's been about. What am I missing? Philippines.
Don't be mad at China for taking U.S. jobs. Be furious at U.S. corporations for shipping them overseas. China did not do anything but take the jobs that it was given. It didn't force anyone to send them jobs. The Chinese trade imbalance is a problem that the U.S. created. U.S. corporations wanted to have a way to screw over the American worker, have cheaper production, not pay for benefits, and to avoid those pesky labor unions and labor laws. So what did they all do? They shipped those jobs right on off to China, putting a lot of people out of work here. And while they got richer than ever, they never redistributed those gains to the American people that they put out of work. And now that the backlash and the trade deficit has reached an all-time high, they're clutching their pearls and pointing the finger at China. But China didn't come over here and take the jobs. They shipped them off willingly. It's highly ironic that people are blaming China for taking the jobs they were given by U.S. corporations. That seems like misplaced outrage to me. But to all of these corporations for pretending that China stole jobs, when they sent them over to China willingly, you just made the D3 List, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions.
Thanks to the new tariff that is happening between China and America, right now America is at an impasse. They are wondering, where are they going to get their materials? Where are they going to source their products? Where are they going to get products at a lower price? Because the place where they used to get it at affordable prices was China. But since the current president came into power, he has introduced tariffs, and now prices are very, very, very expensive. And of course, the consumer is the one who's gonna have to pay in the long run. So will the manufacturing ever go back to America? That is the big question, and people are asking that question, but only time will tell. But the reality is, America is the one that gave away the manufacturing jobs to China. America is the one that allowed China to take over the manufacturing jobs from America. America is the one that introduced bills, or should I say policies, in Congress that allow American manufacturers to move from America to China. And that is the reality. Fast forward 40, 50 years down the line, the whole trade between America and China is mutually beneficial. Unfortunately, what we see is China used their trillions of dollars that they earn through this trade between these two countries and invested it to empower infrastructure, empower her people through education, innovation, technology, and many other sectors in the country. While America, they use their trillions of dollars to wage wars across the world, to try to control the whole world in terms of building military bases across the world and many other sectors. And that is the reality. The reality is right now America is suffering. Life is very expensive. People cannot afford their normal jobs. They cannot afford their normal life. They cannot put up their roof on top of their head. Food is very expensive. Because citizens of America are suffering. People who are living in America, they find life very unbearable. That is the reality. Why? Because life insurance, health insurance is very expensive. Food is very expensive. Getting a mortgage is very expensive. Car insurance is very expensive. Nearly everything is expensive. And the reality is the country cannot go on as it is. Things need to change. And the only way things can change if they put down right policies that are going to help the people, the common people in the long run, and not the elites who are millionaires and billionaires who can afford the extra dollar that are being charged for. China for a long time has invested in our people. They have introduced policies that are helping people to be able to afford insurance, health insurance, to be able to take care of their families, to have roof over their head, to have housing, to be able to get jobs, whether it's a blue collar job or a white collar job. The people are able to do it because they are equipped with necessary skills to be able to take care of themselves once they become adults. Right now, we need to make sure America come up with policies that are going to help the common citizen in the long run. And these are the results of how people voted. The current administration came into power, yes, and they came up with tariffs which are happening, and unfortunately, the people are going to suffer are the common citizen or common America who depends on a 9 to 5 job, who depends on paycheck to paycheck. Consequences, change takes time. Consequences are here because they voted, and now people are suffering. We can see America, we can see China turning their back completely against America. They are sourcing for food from other countries. For example, just the other day they rejected beef from America. Just the other day they rejected soybeans from America, and they are sourcing from other countries. And this is a big blow to many farmers in America. And chances are, as time goes by, most farmers in America are going to lose trillions of dollars, and of course they'll not be able to afford to maintain their farms or even to be able to pay bills to pay their workers. So next election, please, I hope people will take their time and do the necessary research so they're able to choose the right person who's going to help them, and who has the best interest at heart. These are the results of how people voted. So for the next 4 years, people have to tighten they have to tighten their belt and bear the pain and make sacrifices and try to save up and look for alternatives of making money so that they're able to cushion themselves from this financial barrier that is going to happen, and as American feeling the pinch as a result of the tariffs war. The rich will be safe. The billionaires will be safe because they can afford the extra dollars they'll be told to pay. But the people are going to suffer are the middle class, the lower middle class, and of course the homeless people. Alright guys, let me know what you think. Alright, bye. Take care.